Hello everyone, welcome to eLearnChat, where it is all about learning and occasionally some other stuff. We are joined today by Dr. Susan Nash. She's co-hosting with us today and running back and forth. She's got an AC issue going on, but hopefully it's a small one and she'll be with us more often than not. How you doing, Susan?
Great, thank you. I'm excited to be here and really looking forward to learning more about what's going on with learning through video.
Yeah, Mark's. Well, we have our guest today. We'll introduce him in a second. And in the studio, we've got Harold Muliati. He is our video producer. Our guest today is Mark Lassoff. He's going to be joining us. Framework Tech Media is the name of his company. He's got two names, but that's one I remember right now. And he'll be joining us in a moment. Here we go. This show is sponsored by Relate Corporation. Visit us at www.relatecasts.net. Thanks. And we are back and in that center position of power. You didn't know you were in a position of power, did you? We've got Mark Lassoff. How you doing, Mark?
Nothing I love more than a position of power.
Power is good. Now, Mark, you've got a great background. You've been on two different podcasts this week, so we're your third one. They've all softened you up for us. That's what I see. So you're tired,
right?
Now
yeah. Well, they're getting better. They're getting progressively better.
Well, hopefully we'll keep that going.
Right.
You've got an interesting background. I heard a little bit about your background on your previous show that you did, Idiotic, yesterday. I did not watch the whole show because I wanted whatever we were talking with you about to be fresh, just so I didn't ask you the same things again because that would be boring. The audience is similar, but it's a little bit different. So anyway, you've got a tech background. You were a programmer, and you mostly do tech training. You've done training with Linda or lynda.com, LinkedIn Learning. You have your own hosted things that you do, and you've helped a lot of other companies with their training. And that's an interesting background because you came to this like I did. We're not really, e-learning people per se, but we wound up being in that arena. And Susan's the same way. She's got 3 degrees. Let's see. The first one is geology. The second one is economics, and the third one is English or English literature.
That's a good point. It's kind of an English writing and literature, cultural studies type of thing combined.
Yeah. So that was one of the requirements for being on the show. She's multi-talented and can do all sorts of different things. But no, it makes for an interesting background. Very few people actually come from quote unquote education backgrounds only into this field. And I think we met you through Ajay Pangankar.
Of course,
he said,
my good friend Ajay.
He said, "You'll like him. He's like us." I go, "What does that mean? That could be scary." But no, he said, "You're a straight shooter, and that's always appreciated." So we like that. So you're in the Connecticut area. You grew up in New York, and so did I. And
born in New York, raised in Connecticut.
Yep, that's great. Well, Connecticut's beautiful. I had
not today.
You don't think so? Not.
Well, not today. No, I mean, like literally right now, it is pouring rain.
Oh, you're pouring out there. Okay.
Oh, same here. It's pouring rain here in Oklahoma.
We're hot and slightly windy.
Oh.
Southern Cal. We're about 78, 79. Can't complain. That's not too bad. We're dry. We're not humid, though it is kind of humid today. We have what we call June gloom. So in June, we had it in May too, but it's very overcast. We want to make believe we're in Seattle for about 20, 30 days, and then all of a sudden it goes back to normal. But I actually love the overcast. I don't have sad, the seasonal effect. I don't care. I don't care what weather is. It's all good weather-wise. But
in the LA area, you need a break from all the gorgeous consecutive days of beach weather.
I know. And we're about 10 miles from the beach. There's not much. Between us and the beach are farmlands here and a naval base, a very large Air Navy base. We're actually under the flight path, so we get all the planes going right over us. So when there's a war about to happen or some other kind of military action, we usually know because all of a sudden tons of planes come in. What's going on today? And but our building's well built. It doesn't really bring in the noise. So we're pretty lucky. So Mark, how did you wind up getting into the training arena?
So the first time I was a corporate technical trainer, doing technical training all over the world for large companies, small companies, whoever would hire me for a week to come out and teach what at the time were called rich internet applications, which boils down to Flash and Flex and things like that. I had a number of training classes that I taught. I was Adobe certified or Macromedia certified initially, and taught these classes. It was a lot of fun. Traveled all over. We've been on almost every continent teaching these classes, and it was great fun. And about 13 years ago, I was about to start a class at the FAA in Washington, D.C., and couldn't get out of the chair. Was just listless, sick. And so they sent me to the hospital, and I got diagnosed with colon cancer.
Oh, dear.
And unfortunately, due to the treatment regime, I couldn't continue to travel each week and teach my classes. So I took a chance, and because I was sick, but not too sick to do anything, like I could watch The Price is Right and fool around on my computer. So I figured I would be, productive. And I found this website called Udemy, which you might have heard of.
Yep.
Which is now the largest course marketplace in the world. And I said, well, I can make a better course than these guys have. So I put a course up. It was Introduction to JavaScript. And to my shock, it started selling. And then it started selling a lot, and we just grew from there. I was one of the first instructors to sell, I was one of the first instructors to receive $1 million worth of royalties from Udemy. Wow. And I continue to sell courses on there, but I've now expanded my footprint to include LinkedIn Learning, which is the what is used to be called lynda.com. I'm on Safari Technical Library. Pretty much any place they have technical courses, you'll find my courses. And then I have a program at frameworktv.com where someone can go and learn to code for just $10 a month. The idea is to make it accessible to just about anyone who wants to learn really high quality technical training, which includes LinkedIn compatible certifications, a great community of learners, and a lot of really good video lectures and activities to help people along the path. So that's what I do. And then I do some corporate consulting and things like that, but all of it is video based training. And that's pretty much been what's consumed me up till now.
So I have a quick question. So I've been involved in developing e-learning and all different kinds of videos and instructional videos, just you name it, since like the late 90s. And of course, in the late 90s, it was a little bit more challenging. But at any rate, I won't go into all the details about how, but the delivery system. But I guess what I'm seeing is that there's kind of a race to the bottom in terms of pricing. It seems like courses now are expected to be free or almost free. And I'm just wondering if you have any insights on that.
Well, I'm not big on free because that's how I earn my living, is by selling courses. But, there's been a couple of things happening. One, the gatekeepers between learners and people who want to teach really have been eliminated because of sites like Udemy. Anyone can make a course and put it up there. Now, just because anyone can doesn't mean anyone should, but that's caused downward pressure on pricing. And, I never believed that the true price of a online course that I made that, 5,000 people took should be $500. I don't think there's that much value there. I think the value is pretty similar to a printed book. So yeah, I think there's been some downward pricing. I don't know if it's a race to the bottom, because, there is an argument to be made for free. There are people who have financial challenges who don't have access to this life-changing information that I teach, and as far as these skills can get you a career that's going to take care of your family. So, I think there's a place for free, and I think there's a place for paid courses. I think, you know, what we have to look at it is how commoditized is the course that you teach? Because I teach a lot of courses that are frankly commoditized. You can take HTML from any one of 500 instructors online. And, you know, if they take it from me, hopefully you like what I offer and the way that I teach. And that's my differentiator, is in the video quality, the teaching methodology, and also the activities and community we provide. But it's, you know, when you're dealing with a commoditized product, I mean, you know, the pricing pressure is going to be down. But I also know people who teach a very unique experience in tech or outside who charge several $1,000s for a course. And if they are teaching something that is completely unique that you can only take from them, well, then maybe they can command that. So pricing is all over the place. But I think, you know, the availability of online courses and the ability of anyone to now go out and make one has definitely caused prices to drop. I'm not going to be so bold to say the prices are where they should be. But I think, you know, for an intro to HTML or JavaScript, I think the pricing is pretty realistic right now. And the revolution that we're seeing is in access. Now, I have students from, last time I checked, over 200 countries, some of whom I didn't even know they had internet there. But the pricing structure has given them access to take these courses in those places, which I think is wonderful.
I think that's right. And one of the things I'm seeing is that, for example, in highly technical courses for petroleum geology, energy industry, we would charge, over $1,000 for, say, 3 days of training. Now, that was face-to-face. Now, people go, well, why can't it be almost nothing for? And so if you take out all the costs, you still have a lot of costs in terms of the support and creating it, et cetera. But I think the key is exactly what you said, access. But then how valuable is it? And how knowledgeable is the instructor, and what kind of reputation does that instructor have? Right. So we can still.
I would actually disagree with part of that. I agree with most of what you said, okay. But I don't think the reputation of the instructor or the instructor's experience is relevant. It's how well does the instructor catalyze the change that the course promises. Because there's certainly people who are much more experienced than me, who are much more degreed than me, who are teaching, but I outsell them day in, day out because I better catalyze the change that people are looking for. But also, I think the other difference, Susan, is that I'm teaching stuff that is mass market. You know, oil and gas, that's becoming highly specialized, and, you know, it takes a lot more effort and time and investment to obtain that knowledge in the first place. So I think that knowledge is worth a lot more. That's not stuff that's necessarily in the public domain. I'm reteaching stuff that's in the public domain and helping catalyze learning it. And I think that's different than highly specialized e-learning in very technical areas.
Yeah, I think you're totally right on that, because we have a problem with learning where people assume everything is at the mass market level, but it isn't. I mean, when you're dealing with specific subjects, like Susan mentioned, you're going to need a specific level of expertise, which, let's say, the average person won't have. They won't understand geological strata and how this works and how that works and how that ties into this, and what kind of power sources are we looking at? Is it worthwhile? You know, there's a lot of things that come from that kind of experience. But then, like you said,
well,
what you're doing,
Susan, I've been in your neighborhood at the National Weather Center in Norman, where I actually taught JavaScript a few years ago to scientists there. And what they do is highly specialized. The equipment's very expensive. There's a high level of risk. I mean, I think that, you know, exactly what we're saying. We're talking about two different animals here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that makes total sense.
Yeah, so Susan, Susan and I have talked about this, and it's, where do you find the niche? Is it going to be a niche of, okay, we have a very specialized bit of training, or do you jump in and compete with everybody else who's doing the same exact thing, and how do you differentiate? Like you said, you feel you've got a good differentiator, but a lot of people, and we've all seen the training that's out there, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's on Udemy. Not all of it's good. There's some pretty lousy training out there. Some of it's very good. And so, and you just go, wow, they're doing this for free. There's a lot of sharing there. Now, mind you, for a lot of these people, it's also marketing, because they're marketing their services through their training for what they do. And they say, well, I can go into your company and do the same thing, or I can help you out. So there's a little bit of that. Because if you're doing free only, you're never going to survive. You won't be able to eat. That's not a good thing. But I'm not sure where I'm going with that. So continue on, Mark.
Well, I think when you're talking about the idea of free versus paid content, oftentimes when someone's doing it for free, it's because there's another revenue stream somewhere there that free is activating, whether that's individual consulting or live classroom training, which is something we used to do, which I don't think we'll ever do again. So I mean, I do think there's a place for all of it in the learning ecosystem, but things have changed radically, and I am involved with the Learning Guild and ATD, and I know a lot of people in the audience are in corporate learning, and I do my courses end up in corporate learning. I do custom corporate learning courses, and that's really an area where I see that there's so much potential for change and improvement, and it's also where the most money is. Ironically, the most money is spent in the area where I think the courses have the most opportunity for improvement.
Yep. Well, I totally agree, and it's amazing what people are sometimes charging for the course, what they get for that. Not what they're charging necessarily is what they get for it, because a lot of times corporations don't want good training. That's another sort of interesting aside. They settle for pretty low quality, and you just go. I've had some clients where I said some of the worst work we've ever done, and they want that, and it just kills you. You go, why are we putting out this crap? But that's what they want, and then you go, huh. And then you find others that want some good quality. They want a good course. They want to make it engaging. They want to make it so people actually remember something.
But it's our job as learning professionals to help them see the difference in between what is good training and what isn't good training.
Agreed.
Yesterday I was talking about visual design. My two areas are visual design and coding, and the importance of visual design in online courses, and it's an area that gets ignored or that people think is secondary. And what is not realized, I think, by the average person who's making learning content is that people are making comparisons between online learning and other media, YouTube, video games, movies, animation. They're not comparing it to the other online learning they took. They're comparing it to the game they're playing that night. They're comparing it to, the show they saw on Netflix, and it doesn't measure up. But we don't seem to care as an industry because our only baseline is ourselves.
Well, here's a question then. So I have a question. So you mentioned use of video and do you use a lot of animation and custom graphics?
We annotate our screencasts with animation. We don't do a lot of custom graphics because we haven't seen that they necessarily add anything to technical training when we're training coding. But so we do a lot of...
So you don't have like a little avatar? You don't have a little avatar or a goofy little persona or talk about, have little scenarios?
At the risk of offending some people, no, because we don't infantilize our users. And that's, a huge problem in corporate technical training. I had to take something for a client of mine, and I had to take, some e-learning course, so I had taken this so I could continue on this contract. And, it had a Harry Potter theme. You know what? I'm 47 years old. Enough with Harry Potter. I didn't think it was cute. See, I thought it was infantilizing and insulting because they didn't think I was adult enough to absorb the information without being wrapped in some silly childish theme. And I think we underestimate our learners all the time by, using clip art and things that, just reek of poor quality, low engagement in the name of doing something, right? I'm doing something. It's not just a slideshow. I'm doing something. And there's some excellent work out there that's done by, some friends of mine, some really good companies out there doing really, I would say leading edge work. But the average work that's being done it just fails to engage me on a lot of levels. And I think it's a shame, because there's so much potential. This really could be, you know, the rock and roll of learning. This really could be someplace where we push the envelope and try new things. But, you know, because of two things, I think because of the skill sets that people are coming into the industry with, which are the wrong skill sets, and thinking that hasn't changed in many decades, we continue to do the same old thing. Yeah. What would happen if instead of recruiting, now we're recruiting school teachers for some reason into the industry. What if we recruited people who were really good multimedia designers and developers? What if we recruited the same people who were doing, for example, the websites for and interactive for the upcoming Olympics into learning content?
Yep.
What could we do? What difference could we make in learning? But instead, you know, we settle for people who are going to use Articulate and create a fancy, you know, souped up PowerPoint slideshow.
That's the truth. And I've been hired many times to be a subject matter expert and plug in the things in the end. And usually what that means is that you are partly instructional designer, instructional technologist, and subject matter expert, plus course writer. And it's exactly what you're saying. You follow this template and you put the different things in it. And then every couple of certain number of slides, you've got the engager, which is, did you know, or to that. And it's just like, you just want to stab your hand with a pencil to stay awake through it.
Also, one of the biggest problems is that instructional designers on the whole can't write. So if you start with a bad writing premise, it's not going to get much better. I don't care how good your graphics are if the writing is awful. And so you start from a foundation somewhere. I'll give it to the writer. If the writer is putting together something, they've got to design it. You talked about visual design. My God, nobody understands color science, contrast, anything. It's just like the stuff out there is pure garbage. Websites, 80% of the websites in the world are unreadable. That's brilliant. Let's do white text on a slightly gray background. That just makes all the sense in the world. Yeah, no contrast. Blue and red, that's another good one. Brown and red, brown. Yeah, it's like, my gosh, who's creating this stuff? And then they go, what? What's wrong with it? And then you see it go all the way up in a company in advertising. I've seen advertising where you just go, my God, these people writing these things are now doing advertising, and they're paying $1 million for this ad for 5 minutes on TV. Why? It's awful. And
in a perfect world, I think we would have teams that included a bunch of skill sets. Yes, one of them being visual designer, one of them being writer, and an important person in that is the instructional designer, who knows how to take information and massage it into a format so people can learn it. But that's one role in a team. It's not the role, but what we've done is, because of budgets, we've made it the role, and now we have instructional designers doing visual design, writing, coding, all these things that frankly they're not trained for, and this it takes away from their primary role.
And this started right around 2002 or 3, where all of a sudden the old tools disappeared. Some of them were pretty good. You could do quite a bit with things like Authorware and Quest or whatever else. They had a lot of capabilities.
Director,
And you had Director, another one. And you had your programmers, the ones who actually authored the tool. You had your writers. You may have an instructional designer who kind of managed a project and kind of looked at the overall, is this something that worth learning? Are we learning anything from this? Content specialists, too. You've had your SMEs. You had your graphic artists. You had your animators. It was more like a video production, like a multimedia production. And that's gone for the most. I mean, for vendors like us, it's still there because we need to have the different sets of people, or we would have pretty bad courses. But the thing is, it's gone, and it's been gone for almost 20 years, and nobody's really complaining. That's the scary part of it all. The instructional designers complain they don't make enough. Well, yeah, but they also don't do enough, half of them. Go ahead.
No, I've been complaining, because it's to me the biggest disappointment is the potential that we have, and don't get me wrong, it's not that we have the wrong people in the industry, It's that we don't eat our own dog food, in that, we're an industry based on education, yet we have a really hard time changing and learning new things. And there's also a technology problem, right? Because we're building what is basically web-based content. And LMS is a web browser, and it is displaying things in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Yet we decided to dumb down the authoring process so no one had to learn to code. And that results in, we're boxed in by the limitations of these rapid authoring tools, some of which are very good, but they're also very limited. And instead of doing things like simulation and getting into real AR and augmented AR and VR, we, have to use and settle for the limitations in our authoring tools. And that's a shame, because if we coded and we had these multidisciplinary teams like we're talking about, we really could do so much more. The experiences could be so much more engaging, and we could change education. We really could.
Well, there is one thing we have done over the last year and a half. We've actually created a virtual reality for the whole world. It's just, I'm not even sure what reality we're in anymore. But it's pretty good. That was done on a global scale. Amazing.
I think there's a huge difference between well-executed online learning and the emergency move into an online learning where 67-year-old second-grade teachers all of a sudden were teaching on Zoom. From what I'm not a parent. I have a lot of, I'm at the age where all my friends are parents. I'm not hearing great reviews, and I'm in the state that supposedly has some of the best education in the country. I'm not hearing great reviews. And not to mention that I mean the mental health issues and other issues that have grown out of the way we handled this, I think we're going to be living with for a long time to come.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I totally agree. And I think that we are misusing the ability to do collaborative learning. And I mean, we could do collaborations, we could do with Zoom, and we could have people engage with each other to actually to solve problems and have problem-based learning and make it fun, and it's like an adventure, even no matter how it could be humanities or technical. But instead, it turns into often just a person pontificating as they move through a slideshow with their little head in the corner.
You're right. I agree 100%. I think we took the classroom model and just did that through Zoom instead of adopting to what we really could do in this new medium. And granted, again, it was an emergency.
Yeah.
Okay, Mark, put on your Carsoni seer cap. You're now a seer. You're looking into the future. Where do you think learning or training is actually going?
I think, unfortunately, that as people start, as more and more learning is done online, consumers, parents, etc., are going to demand higher quality, and I think we're going to lose the online learning industry to people who do digital better. I think people who do digital well, I think, are a lot closer to making good digital learning than we are as an industry, sadly. And maybe, that'll reset things, and instructional designers will go back to doing the things they were supposed to do, which is, again, how do we make this content that people have to learn into an experience where people can learn it, know it, change behavior, improve their job skills, etc., and start looking at those things. Because I think that's getting short shrift as, learning designers or instructional designers are now having to spend all their time learning tools and graphics and things like that. So maybe that's a good change, but I just think, the comparisons of what I've seen from companies who've had marketing firms do learning content, and I think we have a lot to learn from marketing, is really, some pretty impressive stuff. The other thing is I just hope, in the end, that the companies that are doing the best work now, that becomes the standard. There's so many companies who I think are doing amazing learning work, and it's not the majority, but there's enough out there where you do see good work frequently. I've seen some stuff done in the interactive learning side that's really blown me away, but it's not the standard. And I just hope the standard changes, and that requires a commitment from all of us who produce learning to improve our own skills, to become better practitioners. And a lot of this is knowledge, not talent, right? You're talking about visual design. Typography can be learned. Color theory can be learned. Layout can be learned. So let's learn it. And for those who are interested, let's learn coding. Let's learn these things that we need in order to produce truly engaging products.
Well, one thing that a lot of people don't pay any attention to, or they think it's beyond budget, they don't get good voice talent. In other words, people that narrate the courses or interact within the courses. People are used to seeing games. Oh, they've got some pretty damn good voice actors. So then they expect that out of the e-learning. What they get is, welcome to the course. Today we're going to learn all about communication skills. Press next to continue. and there's no energy. There's no life. There's no emotion. And without emotion, nothing is ever remembered. It's just one of those sad realities in life. Now, it's a little harder. It's a little different in a technical setting to create extremely emotional training. But frankly, that's a different mindset, too. You're trying to teach people to do something that's technical that they need to apply and figure out what to do with. But in the realm of a lot of learning, voice matters. And you're not usually getting good VO talent. And that's important. And, we've worked with some VO talent, for example, that when we knew them, when they first started, they were good, but they become great. It took 10 years, but now when they read, it's like, holy smoke, that is good. That is really, and it holds people's attention more than the content, which may not be that good. So it's just interesting, just one of those little things that people don't talk about very much. Who's presenting it? How do you make it more interesting?
In what I do, the standard is that, like, I am the on-camera instructor. And I think one of the things that, I try and do is recreate the relationship that I would have in a classroom with online learners. Because I think learning takes place partially through that transference in the classroom, through that relationship with the instructor and the student. And so I think, take it one step further, voice, you're absolutely right, but just kind of the disembodied announcer versus having someone who is in an instructor role, again, it requires video, it takes it one step further. A lot of people who aren't trained as teachers are excellent instructors. But we put them in an unnatural environment when we produce e-learning, and we don't take advantage of that.
I remember we did one course.
True. Well, I was just going to jump in and say, you're creating the conditions for learning. I'm thinking of Gagne and some of those theorists that in order to really engage, you have to engage the affect. You make them feel, there's like thunder right now. At any rate, so I think that is so true. And like, okay, so you talk about not infantilizing the learner. Well, I kind of like cat videos. And I think I'd like to see cat videos be introduced. So far, I haven't gotten any takers, but I'm going to start doing them.
Well, everybody's different, right? And, what I may feel like is an insult to my intelligence. Other people might feel it's like really enjoyable and helps them learn it. I think what we need to do, and I think it goes back to an instructional design skill of understanding who your learner is, right? And understanding who your target audience is, and doing what's appropriate for that target audience. Personally, I'm never going to be happy no matter what you do, so I'm probably not a good reference point. But when you're using Clippy from Office 1998. It sends a message about your credibility. And I think that's really kind of where I'm going with that, is there's a credibility issue with some of that.
At the same time, we've had so much Zoom and I've been in so many meetings, but I will say that the person who has a dog or a cat that comes in and intrudes in the meeting, I don't know why, but it happens so much, but like, it's kind of humanizing. And I don't have a dog or a cat, but.
Would you like one? I have one who's sleeping over. I can ship her to you. She's not really my cat. We're more kind of like aloof roommates.
Well, they cohabitate. They're not part. They're not owned. Yeah.
If there's food in the bowl, she cares about nothing else.
Oh, that's funny.
I can relate to that.
Well, guys, we are out of time. Mark, I'd love to have you back on and continue some of these thoughts and also get a little bit more into what your business does and your approach to learning and training, because I do like what I'm hearing about you, and as I'm seeing you now, at first I didn't recognize the name, but as I'm seeing you, I think I took your JavaScript class at one point some time ago. Pretty sure. Was that one?
Very, very, very possible. Over 500,000 people have.
Yeah, so. it's and my wife may have too, because she said she took a really good class, and that may have been it. And it wasn't expensive.
And I would love to come back and discuss the technical end of all this more.
Yeah, it's fun, and hey, if we can change one brain somewhere, turn on that light somewhere, I think that's a good thing. Yeah, of course, there's probably hitmen being sent out to kill us right now, but that's a whole other issue. So
we'll have to find me first.
Yeah, we'll deal with that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mark, really appreciate you coming on. Thanks for joining us today. And Susan, as always, Susan, we'll see you in about an hour again. We have another show, for a different show, eBizChat, coming up. And that's going to be interesting. We're interviewing a company that is doing stuff with waste management that is creating in 24 hours reusable fertilizer. It's amazing what they're doing. It's truly a green company that's actually doing something worthwhile. I've seen some of the videos. It's pretty cool.
I hope I have electricity. That one was close.
Ooh, yeah. Well, hopefully you'll be fine.
Yes.
But anyway, Mark, again, thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time. If you're watching the show, please subscribe. Leave any feedback. If you want to get a hold of Mark, we'll have his information below, his LinkedIn. And do visit his site. We'll have links to his site as well. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks, and we will see you. Oh, by the way, have a good 4th. We're doing this right before 4th of July weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Come back in a sane mode, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.